Hi, I'm Tim at Mr. Maple, and we greatly appreciate you watching today's video. Today we've got a commonly asked question that we get daily. This is, do Japanese maples have invasive roots?
Hey, I'm Matt. Thanks for clicking on this video. We've been doing almost daily content, so every day at 9 a.m. we've been premiering new videos with commonly asked questions, deep dives, and all kinds of maple related content. So if you're enjoying that content, a great way to reward us is one, shopping on Mr. Maple, but two, sharing this content. So like, subscribe, share. That helps us so much, and we greatly appreciate it.
Japanese maples, do they have invasive roots?
No, they don't. End of video. No, not quite. So Japanese maples have a very non-invasive root system. They're a plant that you don't have to worry about doing foundational damage if you're going to plant them close to your tree or close to your house, but you do need to be conscious of it changing the shape of the tree. So if you plant a lace leaf very close to your house, it's not likely to grow into your basement or your piping or things like that and be invasive, but it is likely to change the overall shape of the tree long term as well.
And this is true even for really old, large trees. There's an old tree near the Biltmore house at a shopping center that Olmsted planted. This is a really, really old tree. I'm talking the base on it is huge.
Maybe 45 feet?
Yeah, it's a very large tree. And yet, it's planted right near the base of the house, and yet there's no foundational damage.
Yeah, there's actually a sidewalk that goes over a lot of the roots there that may even be in the 70s, and it hasn't pushed that sidewalk at all either. So Japanese maples aren't a tree that's going to be very invasive, but there's some things to be conscious of because of that. Japanese maples don't want a lot of root competition because they're not a tree that's going to go out there and be invasive in the landscape. So you want to be very careful with plants that do have invasive root systems being too close to Japanese maples. One example would be a Japanese or Chinese yew. Some of those yews can have very invasive root systems that are going to give too much root competition for a maple, and they're not going to compete by pushing back. So Japanese maples don't want to be, especially in a big container or planter with a tree that's another plant that's going to have a very invasive root system.
That's an excellent point, Matt. Whenever you're planting a Japanese maple, you don't want to put other plants around them that may have a more invasive root system than a Japanese maple, like hostas, daylilies. And whenever you plant those around there, that may make a Japanese maple struggle.
Too close certainly can be a factor. I've seen heavy ornamental grasses be right on top of Japanese maples that have very deep root systems. Now certainly there's some dwarf hostas and things you can get by with, and daylilies would work, but you'd have to consider the proximity to them for sure. You don't want to crowd your Japanese maple out with smaller plants because you can create a scenario where it's not fighting back and you're keeping that Japanese maple smaller by restricting its space. Japanese maples have a very non-invasive root system. We have one in Maplewood Gardens there. There's a very old Nabashidari. It's probably in the 30-plus year age range, maybe even older. My dad planted that one. We have a little koi pond beside it with a plastic liner, and it's been there for over 15 years now, and that's never even pushed back against that liner. So it's not a plant that's going to be pushing into things or moving stone walls or, giving you flack up against your house. It's something that's going to be very non-invasive, but be conscious of these elements when planning where to put it and what to do around it.
That's something we're extremely conscious about at Mr. Maple is invasive root systems. Japanese maples have non-invasive root systems. That's really important for us. Our grandfather, our uncle, they're rock masons. They've got some amazing rock work that are very sentimental to us. That not only a beautiful thing out in the landscape, but something that's really important for us to preserve and really enjoy out in the landscape are these pieces of history that our families put in there. And if we planted something like a magnolia really close to it, we would just simply have a damaged rock wall that would have to be repaired or would fall over. But by planting a Japanese maple that cascades off of it, we can pair our love and our passion with our family's passion and make it something unique and different and preserve those rock walls. And that's something to always keep in mind whenever you have rock walls, septic tanks, foundations of houses, sidewalks, or those non-invasive plants can be planted near those, where invasive plants need to be planted more out in the landscape where there's nothing around that they can damage.
Now you may have seen our video on why are Japanese maples grafted, and in that video, if you haven't, make sure to check it out. But in that video we discuss what Japanese maples are grafted onto. So Japanese maples are typically going to be grafted onto Acer palmatum subspecies palmatum, which is a small leaf green, or from seed. And in both cases, those are a very non-invasive species, so that root system isn't something that's going to be, causing foundational damage for you. So it's a very non-invasive overall root system. Now there are different types of maples, so this is specific to Japanese maples. It would not be true of things like Acer rubrum, the native red maple, or Acer saccharinum. Some things like that may have much more invasive root systems, so what we're discussing today would be typical to what we classify as Japanese maples.
Yeah, and Japanese maples make that excellent smaller to mid-sized tree in the landscape, where some of those larger trees, while they may have good fall color, are more of our native maples or different species of maples that may have a more invasive root system. So if you think you've got a Japanese maple, and you're sure of it, this would apply to a non-invasive root system. But if there's a chance it may be a red maple, you might want to get someone to check that out, because it may be a tree that has a more invasive root system.
For sure. Now, part of the beauty with what's going on with Japanese maples is what's going on below the soil. Because of that non-invasive root system, you're able to do more mass plantings, you're able to have more plants in your landscape. You may have seen that picture of my parents' yard. We have over 350 Japanese maples in that garden, and part of the reason that works so well is that the root systems aren't something that's going to take over the entire landscape. So they are a plant that doesn't require a massive amount of space for that root system. And that's also one of the reasons they work great in container culture and for bonsai.
Yeah, that non-invasive root system makes them ideal for something to put in a container, because you can restrict those roots and they really don't fight back. They don't try to push out, they don't try to break the pot, and the plant grows, it's almost like a goldfish. It grows the size bowl you put it in or the size space you put it in out in the landscape and garden.
Hey, we hope this gave you more confidence in growing Japanese maples. If it did, or you got something out of this, definitely like and subscribe and share this. It's just the beginning of the conversation though. You can always join us for comments in the comment section below this video. That's a great way to kind of get that conversation going and discuss a little bit more about what you find with Japanese maple roots.
And think about participating in the live feed when this video goes live every morning at 9 a.m. You can comment and participate in that live feed and have a discussion with a lot of other people who are seeing this video for the very first time.
Thanks so much for watching. Have a good day.
And God bless.
Hey, I just wanted to remind everybody about our giveaway. All you have to do to be entered is like, subscribe, and share to our YouTube channel, and then post in the comment section below, "I dig Mr. Maple." And that's going to enter you to win. You can enter under every single video. So just a reminder, every single video is a chance to win. We're getting very close. We're creeping up on it pretty fast. We're going to hit 8,000 pretty soon. And when we do, we're going to select some people to win this hat. If this is a popular thing, we may be doing more. Get involved.